The interest payments alone on the national debt exceed the Defense Department budget.
The problem today is that inequality is at its highest that it has been probably ever.
Across the country, bridges crumbling, even collapsing.
Will the American system collapse? It sounds like a crazy question, but for millions of Americans, something feels broken. The trust is gone. New data from the Pew Research Center shows only 22% of Americans trust their own government. That is a historic low. When people stop believing in the system stops working. This isn't just a feeling. The warning signs are not in politics. They are in the numbers. Today, we are not looking at opinions. We are looking at the data. We will analyze the 10 factors that will decide America's fate based on the latest evidence. The threat is not an army. The threat is a spreadsheet. It starts with the debt snowball.
10, for the first time, America's national debt has surpassed $35 trillion.
The first and biggest threat is the national debt. But the size of the debt, over $38 trillion, is not the real story. The real story is the interest payment, the cost of that debt.
Interest payments on the U.S. national debt are on pace to hit record levels.
Why is this important? Because of high interest rates, the U.S. government's interest payment is exploding. It is on track to hit $1 trillion per year.
The interest payments alone on the national debt exceed the Defense Department budget.
Did you see that? For the first time, America is spending more money paying interest on old debt than on its entire military budget. The Congressional Budget Office, CBO, confirms this is not a short-term problem. Their latest forecast shows this cost will only go up forever. How does this end? This is a death spiral. It means every new dollar of tax money is already spent. It cannot be used for the future, new roads, better schools, or scientific research. The government is trapped. It has to borrow new money just to pay the interest on the old money. It is a snake eating its own tail. This trap is strangling the country's future, and it's not just the government. The sickness has spread.
The 40-year high inflation rate is worsening homelessness in America.
The American dream is turning into an impossible dream. For generations, the promise was simple. Work hard, and you can own a home, raise a family, feel secure. But today, that promise is broken. Young people have given up on the dream of owning a home. Families are struggling. The hope that once defined the middle class is gone.
High mortgage rates and increasing home prices have led housing affordability to its worst level on record.
You know this already. The current housing market has so many Americans saying the rent is just too gosh darn high.
What is happening? Housing is now, statistically, the least affordable it has been in 40 years. The Atlanta Fed's Housing Affordability Index has fallen to a historic low. It's a double punch. House prices are high, and interest rates are high. An entire generation is now locked out. They are becoming forever renters. But if buying is impossible, renting is not a safe option. It is a trap. Rents are high, leaving families with nothing left at the end of the month. And to survive, they are turning to debt.
It shows total household debt rose in the third quarter by $147 billion.
Well, it's easy to feel overwhelmed by bills. Millions of Americans are drowning in credit card debt, all while struggling to pay their bills on time and fight off high interest rates.
Total U.S. household debt is at a record high. But the real warning sign is this. The New York Federal Reserve's latest report shows that the number of people missing payments on their credit cards and car loans is rising fast. It is now at the highest level since 2011. People are using credit cards to buy groceries. They are falling behind on their car payments. They are trapped. When a nation's middle class cannot build wealth, its foundation breaks. And when people feel they have no future, they lose faith in the system itself. This leads directly to our next point.
It's bad. I mean, John Meacham, the historian, has compared today as being similar to where America was in the 1850s, right before the U.S. Civil War.
The collapse of belief. An empire is just an idea that everyone agrees to believe in. What happens when they stop? What is the data? We saw the headline. Only 22% of Americans trust the federal government. But it is much worse than that. They do not trust the media. They do not trust the legal system. And they do not trust each other.
Although the nation is becoming increasingly divided, Americans are united in their frustration with the nation's capital.
Pew Research shows that most Americans now view the other political party not just as wrong, but as an enemy. Why does this matter? Because you cannot solve the debt spiral or the housing crisis if you cannot agree that a problem exists. Political paralysis is the symptom. The disease is a loss of shared identity. Rome's echo. This political paralysis is a precise echo of the Roman Republic's fall. For centuries, Rome's elites were forced to unite against one great enemy, Carthage. But after they defeated Carthage, that external threat vanished. The elites turned on each other. They broke all the rules. Civil war began. America had its Carthage, the Soviet Union. The Cold War provided a common enemy that forced cooperation. But after the Soviet Union fell, that unity broke. The internal fighting we see today is the result.
The problem today is that inequality is at its highest that has been probably ever.
The distortion of wealth. The system is breaking for the average person, but for a select few, it has never been better. What is happening? U.S. corporate profits are near record highs. The stock market is booming. But who owns these assets?
The rich appear to be getting richer, and it may be at the expense of everyone else.
The U.S. Federal Reserve's own data gives a shocking answer. The top 1% of Americans now hold a record share of the nation's wealth. This is the two Americas. The bottom 90% live on wages, which are eaten by inflation. The top 1% live on assets, stocks, and property, which rise with inflation. This gap is not just unfair, it is unstable. Rome's echo. Rome had a word for this, latifundia. These were the gigantic farms, like modern corporations, owned by a handful of super-rich senators. They swallowed up all the small farms. This massive inequality was the main driver of the political anger that led to Rome's civil wars. It is the same anger we see today, and it is happening while the physical country crumbles. The foundation is cracking. An empire runs on its infrastructure. Rome's power was its roads. They moved legions, food, and trade. America's power is its roads, ports, and power grid, and they are failing.
Across the country, bridges crumbling, even collapsing.
The American Society of Civil Engineers rates our infrastructure. We've been getting a lot of Cs.
What is the data? The American Society of Civil Engineers, ASCE, gives America's infrastructure a C grade. Their 2025 report warns of a $3.7 trillion funding gap just to fix what is broken. But the old crumbling roads are not the scariest part. The new system is also failing. The biggest bottleneck in America right now is the power grid. How do we know? America wants to build new factories, new AI data centers, and new clean energy, but it cannot plug them in.
The issue is that power grids, which carry electricity to homes and businesses, weren't designed for wind and solar.
A 2024 report from the Berkeley Lab found a stunning fact. There are 2,600 gigawatts of new energy projects stuck in a traffic jam, waiting to be connected to the grid. That is more power than the entire U.S. grid has today. This is a total system failure. You cannot have an AI revolution if you cannot power the data centers. You cannot rebuild your military if you cannot power the factories. This is the physical limit of the empire, and it shows exactly where the money isn't going. This leads to the impossible choice.
Analysts note that this is a spending crisis, not just an interest rate issue. Interest costs are now greater than defense or Medicare spending.
America faces a two-front squeeze on its budget. On one side, the military. The U.S. military budget is the largest in the world, bigger than the next 10 countries combined. With global tensions rising, this cost is not going down. On the other side is the new monster, the interest payment. As we saw, the interest on the debt now costs more than the entire defense budget. So here's the squeeze. Old debt versus new defense. Both are mandatory, both are growing, and they are squeezing everything else out. The money for roads, for research, for schools, it is vanishing. This is exactly what happened to Rome. The cost of maintaining its giant army on the borders starved the homeland of investment. The internal decay accelerated, and that decay starts with the next generation. The most important resource for any nation is its people, and the data shows America's human capital is in trouble.
The nation's report card shows America's high school seniors have the worst math and reading scores in more than 2 decades.
What is happening? The long-term NAEP test, known as the nation's report card, delivered a shocking result in 2024. It showed that the math and reading scores for 13-year-olds have fallen to their lowest levels in decades. The scores are not just flat, they are going backwards. The pandemic made it worse, but the decline started long before. Why does this matter? You cannot win a global technology race if your workforce is not prepared. The country is investing in AI and semiconductor factories, but who will run them? A nation's future is only as strong as the education of its children. This is a slow-motion crisis that will hit the economy for the next 50 years. It weakens the final and most important pillar of American power, the U.S. dollar. It is the king of currencies. It is the ultimate source of America's power. Because the world needs dollars, America can print money and export its inflation. It can borrow cheaply. This privilege is what separates it from every other country. Is it collapsing? Number. But it is eroding. The IMF reports that the U.S. dollar's share of global reserves is slowly, steadily declining. It is down from over 70% in the year 2000 to under 59% today. Countries are not dumping the dollar. They are diversifying. They are moving to gold. They are making trade deals in their own currencies. Why? Because they see the U.S. debt spiral. They see the political paralysis. They are slowly, quietly hedging their bets. This is not a collapse. It is a slow leak. It is the world preparing for a future where America is no longer the only superpower. This is the fall of the empire in real time. It is a slow decay. But there is one single factor that could reverse everything. One force that could make all of these problems small. This is the counter-argument, the great reinvention. Just as America faces its biggest internal crisis, it is also leading the single greatest technology revolution in human history, artificial intelligence. What is the evidence?
Artificial intelligence might be a bubble, more on that later, but for the time being, it's creating a boom.
The 2024 report from Stanford University's AI Index is clear. America is dominating global AI investment. In 2023, American companies attracted $67 billion in private AI funding. That is 8 times more than its closest rival, China. Why does this matter? This is not just another invention. This is like the steam engine or electricity. It is a general-purpose technology. It will change everything. It could unleash a productivity boom so massive that it inflates the debt away. It could create new industries, new science, and new wealth. It could be the reinvention of the American system. This is the great question. Will America be defined by its internal collapse, like Rome, a nation that rots from the inside, unable to fix its problems? Or will it be defined by its next great invention, a nation that uses technology to rebuild its foundation and start a new 80-year cycle of growth? The year 2026 is not an end date. It is the deadline. It is the moment where these two forces, decay and invention, will collide. The result will define the rest of the 21st century. The story of an empire is never simple. America is not Rome yet, but it is facing the same sickness that Rome could not cure: massive debt, political division, and a broken trust in the system. The warning signs are clear. But if America is struggling, who is really winning? The answer is not China. It is a group of new, silent empires that are quietly taking control of the world's most critical resources. They are playing a different game, and they are winning. To understand what comes next, click the video on your screen right now. I will see you in the next one.